Om Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhavignanti ye Bhurita Janaha. Thy words of immortality, praised by the sages, full of divine wisdom and glories, the auspicious to hear and they destroy the threefold miseries of life. Those, O Lord, who accept and spread thy glories are the real benefactors in this world. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Master and Disciple. We are on page 83. We are on the third visit of the disciple to the Master. And it was a Sunday, and M had arrived, and so the room was full of devotees. And since he hadn't been acquainted with most of them, not most of them, all of them, he sat in the corner. The Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on a small couch. The room was filled with devotees. The footnote here with devotees. It says, the word is generally used in the text to denote one devoted to God, a worshipper of the personal God, or a follower of the path of love. A devotee of Sri Ramakrishna is one who is devoted to Sri Ramakrishna and follows the teachings. That you've got to be devoted to something. Devoted to what? To the ideal. And when you're devoted to that, there's obvious love, and that love intensifies. Then you become a devotee. You've devoted a certain part of your time or a certain part of your life, but then slowly as time rolls on, that love takes over everything. It's like an undercurrent that flows. Then we become devotees. So the page 84, Sri Ramakrishna, he addressed his words particularly to a young man of 19 named Narendranath. So as we know, Narendranath later became Swami Vivekananda, who was a college student and frequented the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. That was the religious organization that he first became a member of, not only acquainted, a member of. And that started The Brahmo Samaj, the literal translation of Brahmo is Brahma Samaj, the society of Brahman. So it has started with the original one. And later on it split, as we know, and then it became what you call as a Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, with Keshav Chandra Sen as a leader. So speaking about Swamiji, his eyes were bright, his words were full of spirit, and he had a look of a lover of God. Now, in these few words, a whole book can be written. He had a look of a lover of God. What is that? Does he look like a lover of God? Yes. In fact, as you keep on loving God, there's that trait that develops within you. For instance, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he's saying, your features speak about love and devotion. You cannot be a dry person of knowledge, dry jnani. He himself used to say, Sri Ramakrishna was all bhakti outside and jnana inside. And I am also jnana inside and bhakti outside. He said Sri Ramakrishna was all knowledge outside, but all bhakti inside. And he was exactly opposite. He was bhakti outside and jnana inside. However, Sri Ramakrishna speaks about there is a certain, your body gets a different kind of a contour. The body does not look angular anymore. The features are softened. One can see that love for God has made all the features kind of soft. There's a kind of a compassion and kindness that the person exudes. So Swami Vivekananda had that, and yet his words were full of spirit. He was spirited, yes. Sri Ramakrishna also gives the example of, there are these bullocks that people, when they go to buy them, those who buy them, first they touch their tail. And there are some bullocks who will just sit down. And they're saying, this guy has got no stuff inside. He'll be useless. There are some who will frisk about and jump. He was like that. The words are full of spirit. His eyes were bright. Later on, in one of his own, you can say, lectures in the US, he says, there is a special type of light that comes out from knower of Brahman. Yes. So, in the Upanishad, they say, he is a shining one, he is a bright one, he shines in all these worlds. So, Swami Vivekananda explains it, a special kind of light that emanates from the eyes. So here he was, the eyes are bright. Speaks about intelligence. M guessed that the conversation was about worldly men, persons, who look down upon those who aspire to spiritual things. The master was talking about the great number of such people in the world and about how to deal with them. This is one big problem for all the devotees. How do you speak about your devotion to other people? It's simply incomprehensible to them. And that's the reason why the Bhagavad Gita also says, you speak about your devotion to other devotees. Exchange notes, as they say. Sing and praise the Lord in the company of devotees. So devotees, when they congregate, their devotion is strengthened. It's very important. But we don't get devotees all over the place. Okay, we can nowadays with this social media, we have a little groups, this group, that group, yeah, we can interact. But you just can't speak about your devotion, your beliefs in a higher, superior power to everybody. And it's not only in this age, it was always there. In ancient India, there was a philosophy called the Charvaka philosophy. It's called philosophy of materialism. And it was a very structured philosophy. They were really philosophical. Saying all these things about God and afterlife and reincarnation is all concocted by these priests. All there's nothing. When the body dies, everything is over. So, when you're alive, eat, drink, and be merry. And even if you don't have money, go and borrow. And even if you have debt, doesn't matter. Have a nice time. So, this philosophy, they said that there was a sage called Gautama. So, there were many Gautamas, one of them. And there were various divisions within these materialists. The Charvakas literally means, Charu means beautiful, Vakya means words. They spoke beautiful words. And, flowery words. What's all this? Closing your eyes and mumbling something. What's wrong with you? Come out and let's enjoy it. See what's around. Yeah, we can see it. People are burning. And yet they say, oh, we are fine, you're fine. So these people, it's very difficult to interact with them on a spiritual level because they are not spiritual. So you stay away to save your own devotion, not because you hate them. There was a time when you were also there, one of them, and now you have graduated here, this side. So, give them a little time, and they too will see the light, and then they will come inside. So, everybody is evolving into higher and higher forms of spiritual, you can say, growth. So, the reason why they're saying don't interact with them, don't argue with them, don't even criticize them. That's the best way. So, he says, the master to Narendra, how do you feel about it? With this question. Worldly people say all kinds of things about the spiritually minded. There it is. But look here. When an elephant moves along the street, any number of curs and other smaller animals may bark and cry after it. But the elephant doesn't even look back at them. It's an old, you can say, proverb, and used by many saints also. Kabir and also the others. Hati chale jab bajar, kutti boke hajar. When an elephant, in India, the open market places, they're called bazaars. And everybody is there. And sometimes an elephant also used to pass by. With a mahout, of course. With the owner, the rider. And it's a huge animal. You can imagine. And there's a huge commotion. And there's sometimes people try to make way and there's a kind of a stampede and the dogs bark and this and that. If you have seen that sight, I have seen it. Oh my God. So the huge commotion and the dogs all over the neighborhood, they'll come and start barking and barking because they are territorial. See? Even we are in a way territorial. And but the elephant is unperturbed, unmoved. Yes, it just walks slowly with that sedate gait. So, similarly, he's saying, when you move around in society with your devotion intact, you move like that, unperturbed. See, when your devotion has become firm, no argument against it can ever upset you. But when you are in the raw stage of devotion, somebody comes and says something and everything is punctured. Or somebody says something contradictory and there it goes. So when the devotion is weak, when it's being built up, it's better to avoid this. But once it is become firm, you walk like an elephant through the commotion of this world. People will yell and criticize you and nothing will touch you. And people always criticize. Even if you do good, they will criticize. If you do something bad, they might praise you also. Generally, that's what happens also. There are some. So this, and I always tell people, you see, be like that elephant in the marketplace, walking across. And unperturbed. It doesn't bother about anybody or anything. So Swami Vivekananda is saying, he's telling Swami, if people speak ill of you, what will you think of them? So he said, I shall think that dogs are barking at me. Master smiling, oh no, you mustn't go that far, my child. After. Then he's saying, God dwells in all beings. Now this, it is known and it's all over in all religions. I mean, God is outside, projected outside, but slowly, the idea of God within has come in all religions, even monotheistic religions, who say that God is outside, somewhere in heaven. And then how do you get God within here? Now, when Sri Ramakrishna says, God dwells in all beings, now this has to be understood. Is God has become parts in all beings? Millions and millions of parts of God in all beings? Because there are many beings, and not only human beings, of course. We have this ridiculous idea that only we have souls and everybody else does not have soul. So he said, in all beings. That's important. In all beings, God dwells. So if, philosophically, if God can have parts, then that cannot be God. How can God, which is a non-composite, a unit, a unitary consciousness, have all these parts? The Bhagavad Gita says, there is a very famous verse. I'll take part of the first verse. Yata kasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tata sarvani bhutani matsthani upadare. Saying, like in this vast space, in that vast space, there flows the mighty wind that goes everywhere. Similarly, that air is situated in me, and I am situated in the air. Because it's the container and contained. The space is that huge, you can say, container. And what is contained? All the living beings. In one of the verses of salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, you have the words Nirupamam ati sukshmam nishprapancham niriham Swami Abhedananda wrote this. You cannot, Sri Ramakrishna is an incomparable, extremely subtle, without any kind of touch of material, you can say, reality. Without the world and all its beings trying to limit it. And that Ramakrishna dwells in all beings. Sri Ramakrishna himself said, God dwells in all beings as the Vibhu. We are here and there's space outside and there's space inside also. Obviously. Because without space, we will not be able to exist. Now, is God space? No. That is the, you can say, comparison. God is like that space in wherein we all are situated in it. And as space is inside and outside, so God dwells in all beings, and that also has to be qualified with and outside all beings. Because if God is so much, God cannot be exhausted completely by filling in all, himself in all, or herself in all beings. What's wrong? What happened to God? Oh, all God, sale is over, everything is sold out, God is in all beings now. Oh, really? No. So when you say God is in all beings, God is outside all beings also. Everything is contained within that consciousness. So that's why. So, but what about this, the soul that is symbolized as this and that and like a flame? Those are symbols in order to help you meditate. So that one formless reality has taken the form of millions and millions of beings. That's why they say, where are you going to find God? Where are you going to search God here and there and all over the place? Go down deep within you. You will find that space, that God there. Okay? So this is just to clarify things as we proceed, because this will come over and over again. God dwells in all beings. How? Yeah. The other day, I was just sitting there thinking about Sri Ramakrishna. Then I said, Holy Mother says, Kaya Chaya, that is the body and its shadow. The picture, Sri Ramakrishna's picture is like a shadow. And then I was meditating, I said, yeah, now Sri Ramakrishna is here and that is his shadow, that's the picture. The real Ramakrishna is here in this. And I was mighty pleased. Then after some time, I said, just a moment. Ramakrishna is all pervading. And like the sun, that is reflected in millions and millions of globules of water and droplets of water everywhere. There's a perfect replica of that sun, but in a microcosm. So Ramakrishna is that all-pervading reality which is reflected in his picture and within you also. So that made me even mighty pleased. Exactly, like you take a bowl of water, go outside and see, have the sun reflected. The sun is not there inside, but in a way it is inside. It reveals itself there also. So that one pervading reality called the Supreme, the God, imperishable, the eternal Brahman is reflected like that in all beings. So just because we cannot see it like that, so out of His grace, He has kept his picture. This is how I am reflected inside you. There will come a time when this external picture and the internal picture that will coalesce. That will be the greatest, the highest point of your life. All your life, all your pains and all your troubles and all your sorrows and all your joys, everything then will have reached its culmination. Now you will say, blessed am I. Yes. Till that time, push on. And the next words of Sri Ramakrishna gives us a tremendous insight in if God dwells in all beings, not if God dwells in all beings. Now, how do we interact? Because the world we see is also full of the good and the bad and the ugly. So Sri Ramakrishna says, God dwells in all beings, but you must be intimate only with good people. You must keep away from the evil-minded. God is even in the tiger, but you cannot embrace a tiger on that account. Laughter, obviously. You may say, why run away from the tiger, which is also a manifestation of God? The answer to this is, those who tell you to run away are also manifestations of God. Why don't you listen to them? You might not have a person sitting there. Run away, there's a tiger. You know what fear is. When tiger comes, you don't go and, oh, you are also a manifestation of God. You are in a way a form of God. No, don't. Use your brains. There will come a time at the very end, like Swami Vivekananda says, when he was in Rishikesh, he heard of a monk. Monks used to live in these solitary places, build these small kind of huts and practice meditation there. And the forest was always, you can say, full of wild animals. So he says, I heard one time a tiger came and bit a monk, and carried him away. And as he was being carried away by the tiger, as long as his life remained in his body, he kept saying, Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am that blessed one. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Saying that is a very high stage. But for us, this is the advice. So once you are established completely in God, the God dwells in all beings. Oh, so I am there and God is also there. So first, God is there, then I am there. People always make this mistake. Yeah, God is in me. Yeah, so no. You come after God. Sri Ramakrishna also says, you have a series of zeros written. Yeah, they're without value. When you put one before them, then you get all the zeros get value. Similarly, God is there within all beings. Oh, so it's not a secondary thing, entity or reality. God is the reality and you are the secondary reality. So generally people say, oh, now those who are practicing devotees, they have not seen God directly in them also. For them, the best way is to superimpose the ideas of God in your quieter moments when you're interacting with people. That is the way. You haven't yet realized that God, within all beings. So, but you start superimposing your ideas of God, the ideas of God as reality on all beings and interact with them. This is the best antidote to take away all the problems in this world. When you can see everybody as divinity. Of course, before you can really see them as divine, you are now approaching that level of experience. You know, Swami Sharadananda, he also, when he was asked, what realization would you like? He's saying, I want to see Brahman in all beings. Say, oh my God, that's the last word in spirituality. I don't want anything less. Sri Ramakrishna was happy about it. Swami Vivekananda, when he was asked, what would you like? Say, I like to be merged in samadhi and now and then descend from the samadhi, have something to eat, and then go back into samadhi. Oh, then Sri Ramakrishna, I thought you were a huge banyan tree. You know, the banyan tree, huge banyan trees, people trees, that all beings take shelter and shade under it. You're still selfish. Then he said, I will show you there's a higher stage than this samadhi, to see God in all beings. This is what. And as you read, you will find Sri Ramakrishna is experiencing this and telling us his experiences. That God dwells in all beings and all beings dwell in God. So the Bhagavad Gita, Yata Akasha Sthito Nityam Vayu Sarva Tata Matsthani Bhutani Matsani Upadare Natya Matsthani. So God dwells in all beings and all beings dwell in God. This has to be understood. So we are not dwelling anywhere else but in God, and God dwells in all beings. So this is how you interact with the world. Everything is God, yeah, but stay away from certain forms of God, because you are not ready yet. You are not established in that unitary vision. So that is what. And then he says, let me tell you a story. And of course, in a forest there lived a holy man who had many disciples. This is explaining what he has just said, the parable. One day, he taught them to see God in all beings, and knowing this, to bow low before them all. Disciple went to the forest to gather wood for the sacrificial fire. Suddenly, he heard an outcry. Get out of the way, a mad elephant is coming. All but the disciple of the holy man took to their heels. He reasoned that the elephant was also God in another form. Then why should he run away from it? He stood still, bowed before the animals, and began to sing its praises. The mahout, that's a rider on the elephant, was shouting, run away, run away. But the disciple didn't move. The animal seized him with his trunk, cast him to one side, and went on its way. Hurt and bruised, the disciple lay unconscious on the ground. Hearing what had happened, his teacher and his brother disciples came to him and carried him to the hermitage. With the help of some medicine, he soon regained consciousness. Someone asked him, quote, you knew the elephant was coming. Why didn't you leave the place? But, the disciple said, our teacher has told us that thinking that it was only an elephant God, the teacher has told us that God himself has taken all these forms of animals as well as men. Therefore, thinking it was only the elephant God that was coming, I didn't run away. This teacher said, yes, my child, It is true that the elephant god was coming, but the Mahut god, that one who was driver, forbade you to stay there. Since all are manifestations of God, why didn't you trust the Mahut words? You should have heeded the words of the Mahut God. Laughter. Now, you might not get the Mahut God and the elephant God. The elephant gods are all over the place. They will are about to crush you. But you need to heed the words of the scriptures and the words of the Guru. Yes. Everything. I remember there was a Swami here who was in San Francisco many, many years during the early years. Swami Dayananda. He was a brother of Swami Madhavananda. And towards the end, he returned to India and he had started a hospital, a maternity hospital, because he couldn't see how the women there in India were suffering so much for want of medical, you can say, help and all these things, midwives. So he started us. And now it has grown up into a huge hospital. So he had started a small and there were all these labor strikes and it had grown up, it had labor strikes. So one time the striking workers said, we are not going to work anymore till we raise our salaries, etc., whatever. And a junior Swami had gone to have a dialogue with them to kind of solve the problem. And one of the union leaders or somebody, he took a staff, he had a staff and he hit that Swami on the head. And he hit him in his head in such a way that it cracked and was bleeding. And then there was the big hue and cry and this and that. And then the union people also were kind of taken aback. That, yeah, whatever it is, you don't hit a holy person. So that Swami, he was bleeding and somehow he had it bandaged and he went to see the Swami Dayananda, who was towards his end. He was in that hospital as a patient. And he says, you see, so all Sri Ramakrishna's children, everywhere Sri Ramakrishna is there. Even this is Sri Ramakrishna's work. He showed, he's bleeding. And Dayananda looks at him and said, yes, even this is his work. So the junior Swami hadn't yet risen to that height. That Swami had risen to that height. He was Holy Mother's disciple, of course. So even there he saw within evil also, within conflict and troubles and pain, he also saw the workings of Ramakrishna. This junior Swami later on, of course, he became one of the presidents. He got a nice. So we'll read. He gives another illustration. It is said in the scripture that water is a form of God. As they say, Apo Narayana. But some water is fit to be used for worship, some water for washing the face, and some only for washing plates or dirty linen. The last sort of water cannot be used for drinking or for holy purposes. In like manner, God undoubtedly dwells in the hearts of all, holy and unholy, righteous and unrighteous. But a man should not have dealings with the unholy, the wicked, the impure. He must not be intimate with them. With some of them, he may exchange some words, but with others, he shouldn't even go far as that. He should keep aloof from such people. This is, in a way, practicalizing this idea that God dwells in all beings. And when you begin practicing it, this is the way you start. We're not asking people, devotees, to hate others or criticize others. There's nothing. This is how you remain in your own space with your devotion and with the devotees around. And if you are devoted, truly devoted, the whole world will bring you such people as to help you with your devotion. Yes, Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says that I carry what the devotees lack and I protect what they have. So this is an assurance. The people say, oh, I don't have anybody to talk to. Yeah, nowadays, if you're really sincere, you will get people coming to you and increasing your devotion to them. It'll fan the flames of devotion over and. So this is the practical application of Vedanta for beginners. You notice something? He doesn't say in the first beginning, the world is illusory. Like there are so many people, the world is illusory. Oh, and it's only your ego that is not illusory. Everything else is illusory. So that has to be. So this is how you practice Vedanta. By affirming the world. And how do you affirm the world? First, that in all beings there is that God. And this is, at the same time, you're not going to interact with people inimical. Because as I said, there are people who will keep on talking about hundreds of things. They will talk about hundreds of things, inconsequential, insignificant, transitory, that which has no substance. And if you bring up some philosophical topic or something, oh, look at this guy. They will start criticizing you. But not knowing that this is what is real. They are not willing to sit down and listen. So it's better to stay away. Like this, everything is water. God is like water. But some water is used for worship. Some water is for bathing and some water for washing clothes, etc., etc. In India, this is, it's more valid in India. Here it is. But then, even then, we know that the disciple has to use his own intelligence, that which will save his devotion. And Sri Ramakrishna gives the example, when the tree is planted, it has to be fenced around so that the goats or the cattle will not eat at that sapling. And once the tree has grown, then that very fence will become detrimental to it, so it has to be removed for its growth. So that's a time when you can go anywhere, anytime. To close up with this, Swami Vivekananda one time was in Istanbul, old Constantinople, Istanbul, of course. And he was walking down the streets. And he didn't know what, there were the other ladies along with him. They were touring in that, Istanbul. There was a very famous Orient Express. And journey ended in Istanbul, I think, yeah. So he was walking down the streets and suddenly the women, the devotees and disciples, they're trying to hurry him up. Come, quickly. Come. So he's saying, they had entered a red light area, they say, where the prostitutes are. And they were flabbergasted and flustered. Swami Vivekananda was oblivious. Then he said, then he looked around and he saw. And then he started weeping. Oh, They have poor things. They have put their own divinity in their beauty and they have sold it. And he looked at them and he was weeping. And then those women who were kind of teasing and taunting and this and that, that's what they did. Some of them saying, I don't know, in hombre de Dios, a man of God, a man of God. And some of them touched the hem of his clothes. He's a man of God. Who can go there and weep for their lost divinity, but like person like one who is established in God? So that at that stage, evil will not touch you. But now, we might as well practice this. Stay away. You don't put your finger in the fire. You know it's going to burn. So that was, yeah. And Swami Vivekananda is saying, I was so uncompromising. When I was young, I would not walk on the same street as that of a theater. Because in those days, the actors and actresses were people considered immoral. Well, and some of the prostitutes acted as, it's obvious, as actresses. So Swami, he did not even walk on that side of the street. He used to cross over. And so he was that uncompromising. And that same Swami Vivekananda, he avoided that. The same Swami Vivekananda later on, he never needed to avoid anything. Once he was established, then he could weep for them. Okay. We'll stop here for some questions. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we have questions. There are no questions here. So, okay, only pranams are there. So we can close here for today. We have Friday a new the householder disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. We have Golap Ma. We finished seeing the life of Yogin Ma. So Golap Ma, Holy Mother's guardian. She had a wonderful, wonderful spiritual life, very inspiring. Sunday, we will speak about Shankaracharya. The topic is Shankaracharya, the spiritual colossus. He was one of the greatest, you can say, saints that the world has ever seen. So because his birthday will fall on Tuesday, after, so we'll precede his birthday with a talk. So that was another great life. Oh my God. Amazing. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.